Love the Ravens as much as we do? Then smash that subscribe button and stay locked in with Flock News for all the drama, updates, and excitement all season long. The NFL world is buzzing with one of those stories that start as whispers in hallways and end up fueling every sports talk show for days. And this time the spotlight is on none other than Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell. Known for his fiery speeches, no-nonsense attitude, and willingness to say things most coaches keep behind closed doors, Campbell has reportedly taken a few direct jabs at the Baltimore Ravens, a team that just so happens to be one of the most respected franchises of the last 2 decades. The details are still being pieced together, but insiders claim Campbell didn't hold back when speaking about how the Ravens play, their culture, and even the way they approach preparation. Now, in the NFL, it's not exactly unusual for coaches to vent frustrations or criticize opponents. But what makes this one stand out is that Campbell apparently went beyond the normal cliches and gave his thoughts in a blunt, almost confrontational tone. That's why people are calling it more than just a passing remark. It's being described as a genuine swipe, a verbal shot that could ignite an under-the-radar rivalry that no one saw coming. Rumors suggest that Campbell specifically mocked what he called the Ravens' overhyped defensive mystique, claiming that teams around the league have figured out their so-called toughness and that Baltimore's aura isn't what it used to be. This alone would have been enough to stir controversy, but reportedly, he didn't stop there. According to those who overheard or were told directly, Campbell compared the Ravens' offense to an old playbook dressed up with gimmicks, suggesting Lamar Jackson's unique style is carried more by athletic ability than by schematics or coaching brilliance. Anyone who follows football knows those are fighting words, because the Ravens pride themselves on creative schemes and a smash-mouth identity that has earned them respect league-wide. For Campbell to dismiss all that in such a way feels like a deliberate provocation, not just an offhand critique. Naturally, fans of both teams are split. Lions supporters applaud his boldness, while Ravens fans are calling it disrespectful and a cheap shot. What adds fuel to the fire is the timing of these alleged comments. Detroit has been enjoying a rare stretch of momentum, transforming from league afterthought to legitimate NFC contender under Campbell's leadership. The Ravens, meanwhile, are also right in the thick of the AFC race, with Lamar Jackson playing at an MVP level and their defense showing flashes of dominance once again. So why would Campbell, of all times, choose now to unleash a dig at Baltimore? Some analysts think it's part of a psychological ploy, an attempt to plant seeds of doubt or stir emotions ahead of a possible playoff clash. Others believe it's just Campbell being Campbell, a man who often speaks from the gut without considering how quickly his words will spread in today's media-driven world. Either way, it's impossible to ignore the ripple effect. Players are already being asked about it in press conferences. Former Ravens are chiming in on social media, and every sports outlet is dissecting what it means for both teams moving forward. Digging deeper into Campbell's history, this isn't the first time he's courted controversy with his mouth. When he was first hired by Detroit, he famously gave that bite a kneecap off speech that made headlines nationwide. Critics said it was cartoonish, yet it resonated with his team and became part of his larger-than-life persona. Since then, he's been outspoken in post-game interviews, often bluntly calling out referees, opponents, or even his own players. That authenticity is part of why the Lions' locker room rallies around him, but it also means he sometimes says things that rub outsiders the wrong way. Against that backdrop, his reported shots at the Ravens don't sound too far-fetched. They fit his pattern. And when a coach with his profile says something that directly challenges another team's reputation, it carries more weight than if it came from an anonymous source or a talking head. Campbell has built credibility by winning, and when he questions Baltimore's legitimacy, it forces people to pay attention. Even if you disagree with him, you can't just brush it off as meaningless trash talk. Meanwhile, in Baltimore, the reaction is said to be a mix of annoyance and amusement. Some players reportedly laughed off Campbell's words, saying they're used to outside noise and don't waste energy on it. But others, especially on the defensive side of the ball, are said to have taken it personally. For a franchise that prides itself on defensive tradition, names like Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and Terrell Suggs still echo in their halls, being called overhyped cuts deep. Sources close to the Ravens suggest that Campbell's comments might be used as bulletin board material, the kind of motivational fuel that coaches love to pin up in the locker room before a big game. The Ravens don't need extra motivation, but when an opposing coach challenges their identity, it lights a fire. Combine that with the competitive nature of Lamar Jackson, who constantly fights narratives about being more athlete than quarterback, and you have a recipe for a potentially explosive showdown if these two teams meet on the field anytime soon. The whispers in Baltimore are clear. They heard it, and they won't forget it. And this is where things start to feel less like a rumor and more like the beginning of a storyline that could dominate the season's narrative arc. The NFL thrives on rivalries, storylines, and moments that pit personalities against one another. And here we have two franchises with vastly different histories suddenly being linked by tension. Detroit, long considered a team without a true rival outside of their NFC North battles, could suddenly find themselves in a coast-to-coast spat with Baltimore. That alone makes for compelling TV and online chatter. Fans are already taking sides in comment sections and on Twitter, with memes flying and debates raging about which coach, which quarterback, and which team is truly superior. It's all speculation for now, but that's the beauty of the NFL media cycle. A few sharp words can spiral into a full-blown feud that lingers for weeks. If Campbell really did say what's being reported, then he just set the stage for one of the most unexpected storylines of the season, and you can bet both teams will be hearing about it from now until the next time they share the same field. If you think about it, this whole situation says a lot about where the Lions are as a franchise. A few years ago, no one would have cared if the Detroit coach made comments about the Ravens. It would have been brushed aside because the Lions weren't relevant, they weren't contenders, and no one saw them as a threat. But today, under Dan Campbell, Detroit has become one of the most talked about teams in football, a team with swagger, a fan base that believes again, and a locker room that plays like it has something to prove every single Sunday. That credibility makes Campbell's alleged shots sting more, because Baltimore knows the Lions are not just background noise anymore. This isn't some rebuilding team throwing shade. It's a contender calling another contender overrated. That changes the dynamic entirely. Suddenly, words matter more, because there's a real chance these two squads collide under the bright lights of a playoff game, where reputations are truly tested. That's why fans are treating this as more than gossip. It feels like a declaration, like Campbell is planting a flag and daring Baltimore to respond not with words, but with performance when it really counts. Behind the scenes, some insiders are framing this as Campbell tapping into the same energy he's used to motivate his Lions players all season long. He's built a culture around toughness, grit, and proving doubters wrong, and perhaps in his eyes, poking at the Ravens is simply an extension of that philosophy. He wants his guys to believe that no one is untouchable, no franchise too sacred, no defense too legendary to be exposed. That's a powerful message for a team like Detroit, which has historically been an underdog. By questioning the Ravens, Campbell is indirectly telling his players, we don't fear anyone, not even the teams people put on pedestals. Of course, the flip side is that this approach risks motivating Baltimore in equal measure. Coaches like John Harbaugh, who has been around the league for years and commands immense respect, thrive when their squads feel disrespected. So what was meant to inspire Detroit could also serve as a spark for the Ravens. That's what makes this rumor so fascinating. It's a double-edged sword that could either elevate the Lions or backfire spectacularly in front of millions watching. In the media landscape, this story couldn't come at a juicier time. Networks are starving for drama as the regular season pushes toward its most crucial weeks. And what's better than a good old-fashioned war of words? Already, you can see the panel shows breaking down Campbell's alleged quotes, with former players debating whether he crossed the line or if this is just standard gamesmanship. Fans eat this up because it makes the NFL feel like more than just X's and O's. It becomes theater, personality-driven storytelling that adds layers to every matchup. Imagine the build-up if Detroit and Baltimore find themselves in a primetime slot. Cameras zooming in on sideline reactions, commentators reminding viewers of every word Campbell supposedly said. Even casual fans will tune in just to see if fireworks erupt. And honestly, that's why rumors like this spread so quickly. Whether entirely true, slightly exaggerated, or totally blown out of proportion, they create an atmosphere of anticipation. Everyone wants to see how the characters involved will respond, and Dan Campbell, with his larger-than-life personality, is tailor-made for this kind of drama. Before we dive in, Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The Ravens, for their part, have always handled criticism with a mix of professionalism and quiet fury. That's part of their DNA, established years ago under leaders like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, and carried forward by John Harbaugh's steady hand. They may laugh off comments in public, but history shows they remember. They thrive on turning slights, real or imagined, into motivation. If Campbell really did dismiss their defensive identity as a myth, you can bet the next time Detroit and Baltimore cross paths, every Raven will have that locked into their mind. The defense will want to prove they are still the standard, still capable of punishing quarterbacks, still deserving of respect. Lamar Jackson, constantly scrutinized for his playing style, won't just shrug off remarks about gimmicks. He's the kind of competitor who wants to silence critics on the field, not with words. That combination, an insulted defense and a fired-up MVP-caliber quarterback, could be dangerous for anyone standing in their way, including Campbell and his Lions. What was just supposed to be talk suddenly becomes fuel for a potential statement game that defines both franchises' seasons. Interestingly, some players around the league have already chimed in anonymously, according to reports floating through NFL circles. A few have said they actually like Campbell's boldness, that football needs more honesty and less polished cliches from coaches. They argue that rivalries are built on comments like these, and fans deserve the raw emotion of seeing one coach challenge another team's reputation. But others warn that Campbell may be walking into dangerous territory. The NFL is a fraternity, and respect between organizations matters. Coaches who go too far risk burning bridges, alienating peers, or even giving their own team a target on its back. Every locker room loves confidence, but there's a thin line between swagger and arrogance, and some believe Campbell might be stepping over it. Either way, this isn't going to fade quietly. The Lions have vaulted themselves into the national conversation not just with their play, but with their coach's words, and now the Ravens are in the crosshairs of that narrative. The fallout could stretch far beyond this season, shaping how people view both franchises for years to come. Ultimately, what makes this rumor so compelling is that it's layered with uncertainty. Did Campbell actually mean to attack Baltimore, or were his words taken out of context and spun into something bigger? Was this just competitive fire, or a calculated move to challenge his own team by tearing down a respected rival? The truth may never be fully clear, but the impact is undeniable. Fans are talking, players are listening, and media outlets are amplifying every angle. That's how rivalries are born, how storylines take root and grow into full-blown sagas. And if by chance the Lions and Ravens meet again this season, whether in the regular schedule or in the postseason, the tension will be palpable. Every tackle will feel heavier, every touchdown more symbolic, every sideline shot more scrutinized. That's the magic of the NFL. It thrives on these storylines, turning whispers into legends. Dan Campbell may have just lit the fuse on something he can't control, and whether it blows up in his favor or against him, one thing's for sure. We'll all be watching closely, waiting for the moment words give way to actions on the field. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.